Leaving that in. That will be the most fun we've had. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So the question I came up with was, how can I use Keen strategies to assess student learning skills? And Ed Dixon came and did some research at our school, workshops at our school. He was piloting his book, and that's what Keen stands for. I teach a grade 5 class in an affluent part of Toronto. All the kids come in with many, many experiences, and he caught my attention because I have an interest in differentiated instruction, and my background is in spec ed, and my undergrad work was in drama and education. So a lot of his things are drama and differentiated instruction. And what I found he was doing was using drama for more than just the sake of drama, more than just the art. He was actually using it to consolidate learning and to have students demonstrate learning. So it caught my interest. He uses 5 particular strategies. One's called a handy memory. So when he introduced what he was doing to the class, he said, I'm going to teach you about metacognition. And that's thinking about how I know what I know. So that's his handy memory. He has something called a brain writer, where somebody sits at a typewriter, types out a story, and has maybe 3 friends by them, and they point to those kids and they act out what is being said. But they can only do what the writer says. So Little Red Riding Hood walks through the forest, and she stops and says, oh my, that kind of thing. So they can only do what the writer says. The back and forth, which is a one-word story, where the story is told between 2 people, once, upon, a time. And still life, which is also known as tableau. And the children will create the scene to do with whatever, for example, it might have to do with the 3 states of matter. They'll create a scene, and then they spin in and spin out, come to life, talk about what they're doing in the scene, and then spin back in and freeze again. And then the one that my class finds the most challenging is what's called the 3-way conversation, where you have a person sitting in the middle, one on the right and one on the left. The one on the right might be asking them questions about math, and the one on the left might be asking them questions about the states of matter. And so they have to fire off really fast. The idea was, though, that we were using this to demonstrate learning, consolidate learning, check in on how the learning is going. And I was thinking about doing assessment for learning with the Keen strategies, but as I was watching it, I'm going, my goodness, this is also demonstrating collaboration, initiative, responsibility, self-regulation, and all the learning skills. So having taught these children also last year, and I have to write comments on those learning skills, I needed some hard evidence. I needed something that I'd be able to share with the families so that I have hard evidence for the reporting. So I thought, let me use this. And so I've been talking to Dr. Dixon about it. I talked to the colleagues who have been trained. So some of my literature reviews, actually speaking with Ed and checking his website out. I've also done a little bit of reading by Hecox on differentiation. And one of my colleagues suggested that I do maybe some reading about brain gym and learning a little bit more about that. However, I did not find a lot on learning skills. In the Growth for Success, there ain't a whole bunch of stuff in there. So one of the other women apparently is also doing learning skills, and Growth for Success has a draft copy out where there are large sections that have been cut out, and I'm wondering maybe I'll find something in there. So hopefully I can dig around in that a little bit more. So the way I was gathering my data was anecdotal and observations, of course, and making little checklists of things, talking to colleagues who've also been doing the work. And so through that, I'm finding that I'm able to gather this evidence, and I'm hoping that perhaps at some point in time, I might be able to devise tracking sheets that Ed could use for his work. Now, the really cool thing about all this is that we came up with success criteria now with the kids. We came up with discussions, and we were talking about, well, what does it look like if you are self-regulating? And so we created success criteria, really simple statements for them, because I have them evaluate themselves every term, and I have a checklist, but it gets a little complex. This way it will be up all the time, and there's a consciousness now. the kids are aware of it. And I asked them, I said, well, how do you think that I'll be able to use, when you use Keen strategies, how can I use that to assess your learning? And one of my students came up, she goes, well, Mrs. Ema, when you are watching me work by myself or with a partner or in a group, that gives you an idea of my work. And I just went, wow, talk about insightful. So that in itself to me is really exciting about the kids learning. I welcome any kinds of questions, feedback.
Where is your school? What's your population? And
Oh yes, thank you. I didn't talk about that. I'm in a North Toronto school, very affluent. Kids, most of my kids are getting G's and E's anyway in the report cards with their learning skills. I don't even have a lot of S's, so I need it. And I taught a lot of these kids last year, so I need to be able to show the parents what they're doing. Yeah, so that's the school, and I teach grade 5.
And such an important topic because even the government now has recognized the value of the learning skills by putting it first thing on the report card. So it's so fabulous that people who are in the classroom have had that pebble that, yes, this is so important, yes, we have to assess it, but how do we do the teaching around it? How do we provide the learning experiences around it? And that's what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
And I want a copy after. Like, Danielle, wouldn't that be awesome to have a copy of the success criteria?
Oh yeah, totally. Yes.
Well, that was the kids came up with it. Actually, these are that picture is what came up there, and